Shane. Set your minds free, no locks and chains. Do what you love, roll the dice. 50-50, we cold as ice. One thing cold, but a pretty town red. Can't let that shit down in my head, war gaming.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Hobby Homies. We are your weekly tabletop podcast. I am Shane, as always, hanging out with Fox.
Howdy, friends.
And of course, we've got Churchy out of the void.
I've escaped for now.
For now.
Yep. What are we talking about today? I mean, this is unusual for those guys watching. Bit of a weird setup right now.
Yeah, that's right. There's three of us on the screen, which is uncommon. And the reason for that is we're doing an episode on... We've labelled it... Sorry. I've already started destroying the scenery around me. We've labelled it...
3 seconds.
Is copyright. And so we're basically going to be exploring sort of those blurred lines between intellectual property theft in wargaming versus individuals having creative freedom.
Yeah.
And everything in between that.
And we've brought Churchy on because as a content creator, we think he might have some valuable opinions. But he seems to disagree.
We're not too sure about his opinions. But before we get into it, we thought we'd clarify a few things for context, like what is copyright?
Yep.
So we're talking about copyright in the context that it is the legal framework for creators to protect their original works from being profiteered by other people by putting in minimal derivative work.
Yeah.
And so that's specifically in wargaming that applies in a myriad of different ways.
Yeah.
But we're talking about specifically
STLs,
3D baby.
printing.
So companies making designs that we're not sure where the line is about how closely they need to be or far away they need to be from other creators' works.
Yes. Close will be the word of the day, I think. Today. Close.
Word of the day, close. Put it on the screen, Church. Oh, wait, you're here.
Shit gets close.
So from an outside perspective, Churchy, you're pretty familiar with the current climate in wargaming and
Yeah, of course.
designs. Well, you're pretty up there. But we're interested in your thoughts from just in, I guess, copywriting in general, and how much does your derivative work need to vary from the original for it to be okay? You've got a pretty lackadaisical approach, I think, in terms of your own works.
Well, I guess it's sort of interesting. It's like me and Shane were talking before a little bit about, which comes into play more so with my sort of stuff, but fair use and what classifies as fair use, and then also like the categories that allow you to use someone else's stuff, like parody or fair use, or if something's transformative or educational. So for me, because mostly the things of mine that would be copyright would be like music and stuff, but I'm really, really chill with that, and I'm just like, feel free to use it for whatever. And all the licensing I do is all like Creative Commons for that.
Sure.
Or like with like rights of attribution or whatever. So people can just use it as long as they credit me or whatever.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't even care about that. They can just use it for whatever.
Yeah.
But that's a position that you're in now where you can do that.
Yeah.
You know, like if you were producing, you know, like if you had clients and sponsors and stuff like that that expected your content, and you had to make, like I know everyone wants to make money off you know the things that they do, but if you like had to, like it was like life or death, and someone was coming in and knocking off your stuff.
It does definitely depend as well on what the thing is, because there's some music I've made that's is just standard license. So like, and that's normally the stuff that I put on Spotify.
Yeah. Yep.
Check out Churchy on Spotify.
Oh yeah. Tomorrow.
Good luck finding it.
You'll find it.
You'll find it.
But yeah, the new song's actually just about to go up on there too.
Oh, nice.
That Brothers one.
Yep.
But with that sort of stuff, the licensing's different. So like,
Yeah.
if someone just took that and used it, honestly, I wouldn't care. But but according to theory, the license would be different, and it would be a case of like, you actually should have sought licensing and blah blah blah.
Sure. Yeah. What if you created a song, let's say Brothers, for example, and someone took it and changed out a few of your lyrics, and left maybe even your chorus and changed it, and it just started slapping everywhere. Would you be like, oh, that's a cool rendition of my song that I hear on the radio every day, and this person's made millions from it?
Yeah.
Or would you be like,
there's really interesting stuff with that, because there's cases where like, I mean, this obviously isn't me, but there's cases where there's been like the same chord progression in a song.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
people try and sue for that.
Yeah.
There's only
Kinda
so many
like-
chords. That's the thing where there has to be a line
Yeah.
that you can. I mean, we're talking about music right now, but you can.
It's a bit of a
compare this in
precursor,
Everything.
but yeah.
Yeah.
There's only so much of something before everything's been done.
Yeah.
You know, like there was that one of those songs. That was like as soon as everyone heard it, they're like, oh, it sounds like a Paramore song. I can't remember. I don't listen to pop music these days.
Sure.
Those kids and their pop music.
Oh,
but,
they're always popping their music.
But the artist ended up having to credit Paramore and Hayley Williams.
Wow.
Because it was just so similar. Like it was different. But, you know, everything was different about it.
Honestly, I think as well, we're in a day and age where there's so many people producing content of all kinds that you can actually legitimately run into situations where you have like 2 or 3 people that have made basically the exact same thing with like similar vocal structure, similar chords, like identical chords, really similar vocal lines, blah, blah, blah. But they have never heard of each other, never even been influenced by each other. But that's what's crazy, because like then someone will be like, no, you copied that. And they're like, no, I swear I didn't.
And it's your word against theirs.
Yeah.
You know what's
how do you
interesting?
prove it?
You mentioned that. We actually had that exact situation, I believe, in season 2. We released a song, a new intro, and it got copyright striked. And I had to go to Mike D, who made the track, and say, what's going on? Like, why is this person saying... And the other person said... I think YouTube tells you...
It was an automatic YouTube one.
Yeah,
but I think
that's right.
They've obviously gone, hey, yeah, that is mine.
Yeah, and so the automatic YouTube one said, this is the track that we think you've stolen, and we went and listened to it, and it had the exact same loop that Mike had used.
I was going to say, it'll be a loop.
And the
I've had that
beats.
before too.
But also, so they all came in a pack, the loops, the beat, the snare, the 808, and some of the ad-libs.
Yeah.
And he'd include, it sounded so familiar.
Yeah.
And it's just like one of those things where there's so many people producing content, buying these kits, these samples, and we had that exact issue.
That one's so weird.
Yeah.
Because I had that for... Can't remember which one it was, but there was some bit of music I uploaded where... I don't think it was even a loop. It might have even just been like a swell or something that was... I can't remember exactly what it was. Or it was like
part
a
of your
certain
song.
sound or something. It was like a certain drum sound. It was definitely... It was something I got from a pack that I put in on like one of the layers.
Yeah.
But it was something that I... Because of the nature of the pack, the copyright was all good. Like,
right,
but
sure.
because someone else had used the exact same thing, it flagged it. And it was like, nah, bro, this is... Like I've bought the rights to use this.
Yeah,
so like,
but that's I think a lot of that comes because of YouTube obviously being automatic, right? There's not someone listening to everything saying that sounds like that. So like once you justify it, they go, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
Sweet.
exactly.
Take it away. Like
And
what I imagine would have happened.
That's exactly what we ended up having to do. We basically sort of said we kind of had to fight it a little bit and say, no, this is ours. This is the original song. If you play the two next to each other. And then I think what actually happened is the original creator never followed up with it. So we just got a free pass. So thanks for that. But we changed our song anyway, so don't sue us.
I'll tell you what, though, as well. No, but that would have been fine, because if it was from a loop pack, though, that would have been...
It was
you would have
fine.
been totally fine.
We were fine.
There would have been commercial rights for that pack and everything
absolutely.
like that.
Well within our right,
But yeah, the speaking of the copyright stuff, one of like my pet peeves is just when you're like making a video about whatever game or whatever, and it's got music in it, but that music's copyrighted. And then like
for sure.
As a streamer,
sort of
you would
thing
have
is-
battled that a lot.
When I, during some streams and that, I had that definitely.
Yeah.
A lot of games these days are much more like designed to not have that issue, because they know everyone wants to stream games and make videos about games, so they make sure that their music's fine to be used on like YouTube and stuff. But,
and the thing about YouTube is that because everyone is a creator on that platform, those making videos and those having their content parodied or taken and reacted to, they have their own copyright rules that they can basically enforce worldwide. Whereas we, when dealing with wargaming, are sort of limited to our regional copyright rules. Although copyright across the world, basically everyone's sort of signed up to either one convention or another.
They've agreed on similar terms.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of these copyright laws are written before the internet even existed. I think one of the newest ones is ours that was formed in 1968. So even that is just like, that's what we're dealing with. We're taking modern problems and applying old copyright laws to them. And with the age of the internet, sharing is happening at a rate where they could never have fathomed back when they wrote a lot of these laws. That's an interesting contextual piece to note when we're talking about this issue as well, is that we're dealing with, outdated rules in a modern situation.
No,
No,
I was just going to say, so I suppose, you know, the point we're going for here and you know, the topic being around that 3D printing of physical products. The IP obviously still exists, but they're taking it and they're modifying it to a point where it's maybe it's legally deemed quote unquote enough.
Yeah, for sure.
To then resell and profit on.
Yeah.
But morally, can you look at something and say, hey, that looks like X.
Yeah.
But they're calling it Y.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like,
for sure.
Morally, you know, is that something that, can you do it? Churchy, can you do it? Can I do it? Like, you know, and like you guys that are listening in the comments, I'd love to know where you stand. Where would you draw the line? You know, what hill are you going to die when it comes to, when it comes to copyright and
for sure. Especially like, you know, if you think, let's take, what's a company's generic kind of model? Let's talk about a Space Marine.
Space Marine. Everyone knows what a Space Marine is.
Surely. It's a Marine in space.
That's right.
And sometimes not. Sometimes it's out of space. But it comes from space, right?
Yeah.
That's what the name is. So you've got a Space Marine, and then you've got someone else who designed, let's say, a Marine in space.
Or a space soldier.
A space soldier that has very similar armor. But they've changed, and basically it's like for like, but they've changed a backpack.
Instead of a backpack, they've got like a bum bag or a fanny pack.
Exactly. Like one of those Adidas
over-the-shoulder
like
ones.
Style matters.
Yeah, that's right.
That's interesting. That's actually fun. So, and those are your two works. One, the interesting thing I think about copyright is that it's done quite differently to a lot of laws. It's done on a case-by-case basis. And the specific intent and context matters a lot, which is why it's kind of such a gray area. Because if you took those two models, Space Marine and Space Marine Y with a bum bag, and you went to court with that, say you're the designer of the bum bag, and you said, well, I actually just designed a space soldier based off many inspirations I've had. Video games and stuff like that.
Streets of Melbourne.
The streets of Melbourne. And taken my own upbringing as an Eshay and created this piece for that reason.
Got a ciggy, bro?
It would be interesting and quite dependent on some old judge in a courtroom to turn around and say, I deem that okay or not okay. So I find that super interesting that that's kind of the climate we're in at the moment. And I guess it's like, so is copy right? Like you mentioned, sometimes legally, yes, but what about morally? Like, where does each of us land? You know, it's not as simple as just take a Space Marine, for example, and change 10%. You know, it's much more nuanced than that. So I'm interested. For me, I'll start off with my random view. I think intent is the biggest thing. So if you've designed a piece that's intended to directly take from the original creator, you intend your model to be used in the original creator's context, I find that the gray area where I'd be like, I don't know if that's okay. I don't think that's okay.
But that's a good sort of process. But where would you stand on competition, right? Because if you like, let's say you've invented a car, right? You've invented the first car.
I've done it.
Someone comes along like, hey, that's pretty sick. I could make one. Maybe I'll make it look a bit cooler. And I intend it to so you don't sell as many.
Bro, you copied me.
But did I copy? You know, where do you draw the line? Are we going to have, you know, like Henry Ford getting sued, you know?
From
from
Tesla?
Elon
Anyone?
Musk? I
Like,
don't know.
like literally anyone from
Like,
Elon
yeah.
Musk? Maybe not.
Like where, you know,
Yeah.
and that applies for everything. Like
Yeah.
there's a competition in this capitalist society that we live in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Which is good. It's good to have the competition because then iteration happens.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
people compete and iterate upon an idea. And it gets better and better and
also
better.
helps for price for the consumer.
Yeah.
The more competition, the price comes down.
Yeah.
If you've got the whole market, you're the only one that makes cars.
Yeah.
You can charge whatever you want for them.
Yeah.
But if someone comes along and I start selling cars and I'm like, they're 25% cheaper than yours, then you're like, shit,
Yeah.
I've got to bring my price down.
Yeah, for sure. And that is a good thing. And you touched on something there, Churchy, as well. And that's, you've got to find the balance between directly stealing someone's intellectual property
Yep.
and not stifling the creativity of those who want to make derivative or inspired by works.
Yeah. Yep.
The nuance in in like wargaming is that making miniatures is the making of the cars.
Yep.
And lots of people, you can make miniatures. You
Yeah.
can make as many miniatures as you want,
Yep.
different designs, different models. And you can say, I hope to directly compete with these bigger players.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And I am going to take inspired by, or the concept of miniatures
Yep.
and make my own version of that.
Yeah.
I think the nuance is that sometimes, like, there's no rule set
Yep.
for what do you call it, for cars.
Yep.
Let's say Ford had the rights to make cars
With spoilers.
Yep. or on specific roads, and you go,
Yeah,
well, I
yeah.
want to make my Tesla and drive on Ford roads with them.
Yeah, yeah.
That's when it gets a bit interesting. But you raise a point I actually hadn't thought of at all, and it's like, where is that line?
Yeah.
Where is the line being, I would to create something with the intent to make money off it, and
Yeah.
yes, it's going to directly compete with
Yeah.
the works I've been inspired by.
And it all comes down to the same thing like we talked about right at the start, where it's like there's only so much, right? Like
Yeah.
there's only so many chord progressions.
Yeah.
There's only so many styles of miniatures that can be made.
Yeah.
Like I know that there's countless out there, and there will always be countless more.
Yeah.
But like at some point, there's going to be everything's going to have been done.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
space soldiers and you know and forest elves and
Mm.
where do you draw the where can it stop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, are you allowed to make a wood elf?
Yeah.
Are you allowed?
Yeah.
I think
You know?
this is like another interesting overlaying thing of it all is that there's that whole idea of, like you sort of mentioned before, like inspiration, you know, people getting inspiration from this and that, and, you know, they make something. But that just stretches back, you know, to days long gone by, like ancient people that had myths and legends about this and that, and then those caused stories about this and
Yeah.
this other thing, which then caused more stories about this, and then
Yeah.
that was an influence in so and so who wrote this story. Like Tolkien, for example,
Yeah.
writes this big epic story like Lord of the Rings and stuff, and then people take inspiration from that, and then they make an orc, and then someone else makes an orc,
Yep.
and then another company makes an orc,
And now everyone's got orcs.
And
Yeah,
now,
and
but
now
now
everyone's got
anyone
orcs.
can make orcs.
And anyone
can
make an orc
because orc is
Yeah.
Tolkien's, I don't know, creation.
Yeah.
Right. Is now to a point where it's so like generic.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
You know, like, and there are those founders of these things. You know, but then there's other sides of the coin too, where it's like Lovecraft stuff, which is public use,
Yeah.
public domain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah. It's interesting because it's like there's people that would say copyright is just bad in general. Like copyright shouldn't exist because there's this saying that sort of captures the idea, and it's, if I have an apple and you have an apple, then Churchy has an apple, and we all give each other an apple, move it around clockwise.
Yeah.
And at the end of that, we've all got one apple.
Yeah.
But if I have an idea, Churchy has an idea, and you have an idea, and we move them all around, we all have three ideas.
that is, yeah.
And we share them.
Yeah.
And so, and then we take those three ideas and put our own lenses of life on it.
Yeah.
And we create three different things, or potentially way more than that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the idea of why copyright could be bad, is that there's nothing new under the sun.
yeah.
And on the flip side of that, you have people saying, well, copyright is a good thing and should be enforced more regularly, because instead of having everyone with an orc, if it was enforced correctly,
Yeah.
we would actually have new and interesting things.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and Tolkien would have an orc, but this other company would actually create something different that's not a green half man
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So, yes, Churchy.
Oh, I was just gonna well, I
got
think it's again it's that idea of like iteration and stuff where because the whole thing with the orc is like it starts as one thing, but it can evolve and become another thing, but then it can also be influenced by like a dozen other things. So then you have a space orc versus a fantasy orc. You know what I mean? And I was going to just mention before as well, the copyright and things of that ilk can definitely be very, very bad. The main one being certain patents. Because there are some things that have been patented that you should never have been patented,
it's crazy.
which is a whole other can of worms. But
I remember a slight tangent, but I remember a while ago, back when the smartphone was sort of really taking off. There either was or was an attempt to patent the pinch gesture for zooming.
Oh right, there you go.
And like it's like, how can you patent or copyright a hand movement or a hand gesture? You know? But I guess it all comes down to like the nuts and bolts of the mechanics, where that motion on the screen means zoom in or zoom out. For sure. I sort of remember just hearing about it one day, and I'm like, that's weird. But then didn't think any more of it. So,
but and
interesting.
The ones that Churchy's talking about, I remember there was a patent that someone used a shovel in a certain way on a certain material, and the patent passed for over 80 years, and people weren't allowed to use a shovel on a certain material in a certain way. And I cannot remember what it was. So the material was a stone.
Sand.
It was like they had a shovel and they used the corners of it to levy out large chunks of something from the earth. And they were like, oh, this is actually, and they're looking around with everyone using their pickaxes and shovels and working away, and they're like, I got to go patent this. And so in the 1300s or whatever, exactly. They tried to, they did successfully patent that until it got somehow overturned, or the person died, and then it reneges or something after 20 years after that or something.
I think after a certain amount of time, it does become public use.
Yeah, so now
every copyright has a
so grab your shovels, get out there.
But then that stuff gets like pushed and extended because it goes to so and so foundation of the person, and then
trusts
all
that bullshit.
Yes, I'll try and find that video and throw it in the Discord because it was amazing.
Very interesting.
Some of the darkest ones though is stuff to do with like medical stuff, and like there's even people that try and like patent certain parts of like the human genome and stuff. There's crap like that going on where you're just like, dude, what the?
At the end of the day, everyone just wants to make a quid.
A quid,
and like
or a dollar,
and then that's why
pesos,
many pesos
of that, which again is kind of interesting because this will tie back into the whole like, is copyright good? Is it bad? The opposite end of that is when someone discovers something like revolutionary, doesn't patent it, and just lets it go for free, like penicillin.
The world needs this.
Exactly. They're like, this is bigger than me. I don't need to profit from this. Let the world have it, and then they save like millions of lives and stuff. And so so that, I guess, that to tie that back in with the sort of what we're talking about,
we are trying to save lives by limiting the amount of orcs that are out there.
Because orcs are really bad, and like they just kind of suck.
I suppose we've sort of come to quite a tangent here.
I love that you said slight tangent, and then a minute later we're like, and penicillin saves the lives of everyone. And orcs suck.
Saves lives, therefore orcs suck. Subscribe.
So your opinion on copyright is sort of the intent behind it.
I think intent and context.
That's where you draw the line.
I feel like if you create something specifically as a replacement for something else, and you're directly trying you're directly trying to collect sales that would have otherwise gone to that product, specifically, and your intent was to do that from the start, then I think that's probably not where I draw the line, but where I'd go, I don't think that's okay.
So competition's not okay.
No, I didn't say that, because I think if you create something new, at least derivative enough that it adds more value to the consumer than the original piece, like an alternate car, for example. Then I think that's okay. Like if you said, of course people could buy this STL or use this STL for that other thing, but I designed it and I've got lore behind it and I've written a story behind it, and it's something that in itself adds way more value, and it serves another purpose than just trying to take money from that.
Yeah.
You know?
Just being a proxy.
Yeah,
to go
effectively.
back to the wargaming sort of thought.
Yeah.
So your space soldiers, instead of just being proxies for Space Marines, they are their own thing in their own world. Yeah,
and they're called something unique to you, not a deliberate attempt to skirt around. You know, its original name or whatever.
Zombie robots or some of the crazy STL names we find out there.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember I showed you a zombie robot once, and I was like, this is the original designer and this is the STL.
Taken off a certain skeleton.
And because I didn't show you that first. We talked about the concept of zombie robots, and obviously, like, you can't copyright that. That's not copyrighted, and you can't just claim skeleton robots for yourself.
No,
because Terminator and a million other things exist in that same vein. So. But then when I showed you those two models side by side, you're like, oh, okay, it's a little bit too.
There was definitely elements that were like almost one for one.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think if you're going one for one replacement, but just trying to change enough to legally oblige to skirt it, that's where I'm like, I don't think that part's okay.
That's the moral side of things, where it's like legally, okay, maybe you've got to do some loopholes or something like that, but it's still. We know what you're trying to do.
Everyone
knows what you're trying to do.
Exactly. And that's why I think the courtroom would know what you're trying to do. And if you were in court and had to defend that piece, I don't think you could. But at the same time, on the flip side of that, it's like some people wouldn't even dare. And this is the problem with stifling the creativity of potential new designers. Is that maybe they're so scared about even getting into the courtroom because they couldn't afford that, that they can't design the inspired works that they have. And that's I guess the flip side of it. So
we've seen that actually happen, like, in our community. The Juggernaut, the big one has taken little companies to court who just can't legally afford it. That small company could win hands down 10 times over. They can't afford it. They can't afford the legal fees. So they just give up. They just fold.
And that has happened. And I'm just like, I don't really, that part of it all I don't understand, because it's like, if you win, don't they have to pay your fees?
I think there's some of those no win, no fee lawyers. I think they're more normally like car accidents or work cover claims.
Right, sure.
I don't know if they cover like.
I thought it covered all cases.
Some cases cover legal fees, but not always. Like, it's
there you go. And if you won, sure, you still have to pay all that money out of pocket, and then what? You get nothing, or I guess then maybe you have to countersue, but that costs. So you countersue for the costs of.
We're not lawyers.
No, we should have said that at the start in case you guys.
You're a lawyer.
In case you all tuned in thinking we were going to hear some smart people. We should have prefaced this by saying we're just three dum-dums with some beers talking about some stuff, and this is just a conversation. So if you're listening and you're like, I think this or I think that, that's the beautiful thing about this particular issue. It's so nuanced, but it's also so vague. So we'd love to hear your thoughts, because we got no idea.
No, that's right.
We got no idea.
I go to law school.
Can I design a space robot?
Yes.
You can, yes.
Can I make it look one for one?
You can, yes, but prepared to
to take it down.
Bend over.
And that's it. There's you do see that a lot on these STL sharing things. They get hit by the Juggernaut.
Just a wave.
A wave of them is removed. And some of them I'm like, fair enough. And others I'm like,
how?
Yeah.
I feel like they're ones that fall to that, like, I don't want to get caught up in this.
For sure.
Like, I can't afford the legal fees for this.
No
way.
I made $7 off this model.
I can't.
I
can't afford, like $7,000 or 70. I don't know. I've never been sued before yet.
But this episode may be the decider for us. I thought you were going to say something.
No, I do have a
mysterious
thread.
Where do you draw the line? Fox has said he agrees.
To continue on from what, to continue on basically from what Fox was saying, I think intent is the key here. Because, like I said, there are times where people will make almost the identical thing, but they never heard of any of each other. They were unaware of each other.
Sheer coincidence.
It was sheer coincidence. And they just had similar influences or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think there's definitely that line where the intent, you can see it in the design sometimes, where you'll see like something that is as one for one as it can be, while skirting the line of what they can get away with legally.
Yeah.
Where which again, you're kind of like, you can see the intent behind it. And then they'll be on somewhere where there is no game for it or anything. It's literally just, this has been designed to be a printable replacement for this other thing.
Yeah.
Which is where it sort of becomes like a bit more grey area, where it's sort of like, well, clearly your intent there was to copy a design, alter it just enough, and then sell it to compete with an already established market or model or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's a bit like, you know, I feel like that's one of the instances where I would say it probably is a bit, you know, fair enough that you claim copyright or whatever. But then I feel like, to kind of continue on from that, like you mentioned, there are definitely some where you go, why did this get claimed?
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a case where there'll be other models that are definitely similar, but they've got like their own culture, their entirely developed lore and story and a game world and everything. And you're kind of like, yeah, they're similar, but like ultimately that's a space zombie and that's a space zombie, or that's a space marine and that's a space marine. But they're a like similar concept, but they're unique enough in their design and background that it's, you know, it shouldn't be claimed. And then again, that comes back to the bullying as well. Of like, we're this massive company, we're a juggernaut, we're going to come in and like sue you guys, and then the little guy can't compete. So they take down their fairly unique work.
Yeah.
And then everyone misses out on it.
It's so layered as well, because like you gave two examples. It's like, this thing's closer to a one-to-one copy, but it's got its whole universe and the context of which it was created and the purpose for it's unique.
Yeah.
This one's more of like a derivative, but its design was intended for direct copy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you've got other issues, like, for example, what if that company that made that original work and sold it at one time no longer does?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you do one-for-ones because they no longer sell it? It's not indirect. They're not losing any money off that.
Yep.
Or what if it's, and going more small than that, what if you want that, but it hasn't been available for a year, but they intend to later bring it back?
Yeah.
What about those situations? There's a lot to it.
Yeah. You can also look at things like, in our world, you know, like bits. Replacement bits.
Yeah.
In the generic world, you can also look at things like spare parts for a car.
Yeah.
You can get aftermarket parts. It's like,
sure.
I don't want to buy a new starter motor, so I'll buy an aftermarket one.
Yeah.
It's made to replace the genuine one.
Yeah.
You know, the original one.
Yeah.
But you're going with the cheaper option. Is that copyright? How do they draw around that? Like, have they changed it by 10% and they're calling it enough?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I know the STL and the whole wargaming side of things is very, very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Nuanced?
Nuanced. And like in the rest of the world,
Yeah, the other world, the normies world, where they all live, those like, weirdos.
Copyright doesn't really seem to be as like hot topic. Like it's like you hear about it every day. But in our little world you do.
Yeah.
Like it's always, there's like, again, you know.
There's another battle for something. Yeah, it is interesting. It's quite a new, because I think recently it's blown up as well, and you've got all these designers seeing a space for competition.
Yeah.
And being STL people, it's quite accessible too to design an STL, and the easiest way to make money off designing STLs is to make STLs that are a direct rip-off of something that's successful, and hoping that profit bleeds through to you.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately too, when you buy STLs, it's to 3D print them.
Yeah.
And when you're 3D printing anything, instead of buying it, a lot of people are trying to stick it to certain companies when doing that.
Yeah.
But don't realize the economical side of this is that you're actually hurting your local gaming store.
Yeah.
And so I think your intent as a consumer is important too when making these purchases.
Yeah.
Because I, as someone who prints vehemently, I printed these little one-to-one copies of a game I found, printed like 60 of them, and I was like, 60 of those cost me the same as buying a pack of 10 of those.
Yeah.
I was like, not even the same, sorry, way less.
Yeah, less.
I could have covered my printing costs for the next 2 months as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, but what I've done is I've actually I've stuck it to maybe an overpriced Juggernaut, but I was never going to buy from them.
No, you know? Yeah, you never had that intention of buying them. You just printed them because they were there.
Yeah, exactly. And if I had bought them, it would have been from my local gaming store who now doesn't get that sale.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, can you look at it like that? Can you say, hey, yeah, it's fine to rip off them because they've got enough sales and money, they can afford it.
Sure.
You know, but then your same logic, does that apply to a smaller indie company?
Yeah.
You know, like if you 3D print their stuff, it's going to hurt them obviously more so.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's the friendly local gaming store that really cops it.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this, and I was like, would I 3D print this if it was Graphen Out Games?
Yeah.
Because the answer is no. I remember I bought a massive box of feudal Japanese miniatures.
Yeah.
And I was like, you could play Test of Honor.
Yeah.
With these miniatures for the rest of your life. Have every different option known to man.
Yeah, you got 600 Ashigaru in that box.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then we went out and just bought a heap of Graham's Graphen Out Games Test of Honor stuff because you want these games to keep going.
Yep.
As much as you may hate a company, you want these games to keep going.
Absolutely.
Because they're everything to us wargamers in our world.
Yeah.
Maybe not those people in that other world, but for us, they are everything.
Place,
it's a horrible. It is a horrible place. You should never go there. So, yeah, exactly. It's thinking about whose pocket am I to? And like, obviously, indie creators extends to the people making these STL files, and you want them to keep doing stuff.
Yeah.
So it is layered, it is nuanced, and we're three dum-dums with beers, but it is something that is fun to mull over.
Yeah. It's a good thought exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm looking at printed models over there right now.
Yeah.
For games, but a lot of those are for games that don't actually have their own models.
No.
And so that's super cool to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Or miniature agnostic games who fully intend just to make money off their rules and
sell the rule book.
And that's all. And maybe they have a couple of their own minis, but to fill out the line, you have to print or buy or source elsewhere. But there are companies whose bread and butter is in the manufacturing, and local gaming stores need those.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
So yeah. The answer to is copyright. It depends.
Sometimes.
Sometimes it is.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Yeah.
I think I think it's a question without a real answer.
Oh, for sure.
It's one of those.
It's so case by case.
Exactly. It's
maybe
so
the court.
case.
Maybe the law is good.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe it's accurate.
Maybe just the judge should just say is copyright, yes or no, not us.
Yeah, exactly.
Leave it with him.
You know what? Design something, go to court, and see what happens.
Yeah.
Just see what happens. Let us know.
Go to court.
Let us know in the comments. How much does it cost? If you win, do you
Were your
pay
legal fees covered?
Yeah, let us know. That's what we're really about.
Yep.
Yeah, and I guess it's an individual basis too. Like we've touched on many different things that you got to weigh up when you're trying to figure all this out.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I should be able to copy something with the intent to provide competition, but it's also going to be its own thing. That should be okay.
Yeah.
And we've seen a company do that really successfully and create their own beautiful thing from copy.
Yeah.
And on the flip side,
And like, it all comes back to like, is, that first intention, whether it was on the nose copy or not, it's evolved into something else.
Yeah, something awesome.
And like, does stamping out all these, first phases in the life of a system or a war game, which may be, hey, this is awfully close to something.
Yeah. To Tolkien's Orcs.
Or to Star Wars or to anything, It's like, and then it evolves into its own thing over time.
Yeah.
Just as we've seen the Juggernaut do.
Yeah. For sure.
So
100%.
Yeah.
So we don't know. But let us know in the comments. We're
Maybe.
Curious about everyone else's thoughts as well.
Yeah.
We'd love to extend this discussion to you, and there's probably a million points you've listened to this episode and thought, what about this?
Yeah.
What about this?
Yep. Or let us know in the comments. Let us know in the Discord. We actually have these sort of thought exercises from time to time.
Yeah.
But we thought it'd be a good idea to maybe record one. This was a very contentious topic, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I've got the fragile tape over here, just in case one of us got fragile.
Yeah.
Or fragile, sorry.
Fragile.
But yeah, absolutely. And this is a different format. This is a discussion. Normally we try and deliver a piece of content that edutains in some way. This is not that. This is different. So let us know if you like this kind of talking head format.
Yeah.
And we'll see you unless you go watch another podcast with Shocks and Fane and Churchy.
Of course.
Talk about things very similar but not quite
the same.
Slightly derived.
Yeah. 10% different.
10% different, at least.
Massive thank you to all of our listeners and fans, of course, and patrons as well. So without you guys, we wouldn't be sitting here doing this stuff. Is this season 5? We're in season 5
this
right now?
This is the first episode of season 5, actually. Yeah. Or maybe one of the early ones. Who knows? I can't predict the future, but it's something.
We got some stuff happening.
Yeah.
Christmas and the end of year craziness.
Shenanigans.
Stuff like that. So hope you guys are staying safe and looking after each other. And
we'll see you in the Discord.
See you in the Discord.
And thank you to our most awesome patrons.
Of course.
You're incredible. Your continued support throughout the last 3 years.
Wow. Long time.
Has been amazing. Even if you're a new patron with us and you've been here for a week.
Yep.
Thank you all. You're incredible.
Yeah. Massive shout out to Burnsy, Whack, Fallen Dinosaur, MJ, Lethal, Moose, Penny, Gridlock, Test Dummy.
Yes. We got Axe, Annex, Elko, Churchy, Rad, Ollie, Hockers, Aggro, Bravo 14, and Big Roach. Notice the only time I didn't special thank Churchy was when he was right next to us.
Yeah. You don't need to.
Go back to the void.
I will.
Toodles.
Check out homiehomies.com. See ya.
Peace.
Woo! Big up to the boys, Fox and Shane. Set your minds free, no locks and chains. Do what you love, roll the dice. 50-50, we cold as ice. One thing